Folks, welcome back. My name is Rudy. You're watching Alpha Investments. Pretty historical video today, folks. Not going to be crazy on the folks, everything, so we're going to do it very soothing. Folks, okay? Today I'm going to reveal and go over some eye candy with everybody. It took me about 2-3 months to complete this transaction, and adding this to the Rudy Volton position, I believe this probably creates the largest known sealed product of vintage Magic the Gathering in the world at this point. And today we're going to go through some things. Sit tight. I want to give you guys some interesting information, some nice words of wisdom for life, and then I'll reveal to you all and share some eye candy with hundreds of vintage Magic the Gathering sealed boxes from the 90s. So first I want to lay out a couple things before I just zip over the camera, okay? And that is, I'm approaching 10 years, a full decade on YouTube. I've learned a tremendous amount of life, mindset, financial things over the last decade on YouTube, doing over 3,000 videos with you guys, running the largest Patreon collectible account in the world, going on the longest time frame, I guess, since Patreon was when they first started at the beginning. And I've learned a lot. And I want to leave you guys with a couple of interesting pieces of words of wisdom before I show you all the eye candy. And that is, you'll notice a trend on this channel. When it comes to me deploying large amounts of capital and sharing positions and doing things, you'll notice many times I'm very quiet about it, and many times it's always unfavorable asset classes. So there's been some recent chatter. For example, a lot of you all have noticed in the last year or two, you started to see a lot of vintage 18th, 19th century antique original oil paintings from museums and galleries all over the world that I've been acquiring in the backgrounds of some of my videos. Well, if you know anything about antique artwork and original oil paintings or watercolors from, European countries of the 18th, 19th century, you would be aware that Christie's and Sotheby's prices, when you pull the data on these, a lot of these are down 50 to 80% from their highs at the peak as culture shifts and they become out of favor. You'll notice on this YouTube channel that right now, vintage Magic the Gathering is still very out of favor. Nobody's excited about it. The views are low. There's no hype around it. Message boards don't discuss it. They just say, oh, it's something that rich people sell back and forth, and the cards in the box have no value, and it's clearly a bubble, right? So only time will reveal how that unfolds. Of course, if you've been around this YouTube channel, you'll also notice that Scarlet and Violet and Pokemon started at the beginning of 2023. February, March, Scarlet Violet base started. So all of 2023, I was deploying millions of dollars into brand new Scarlet Violet Pokemon booster boxes, which leads me to releasing this video in January of 2025. So you'll notice I tend to target categories that are not in the hype cycle, not where hundreds of new YouTubers on Pokemon are doing rip and ships. You'll notice that Rudy focuses and deploys large amounts of capital in the categories that are always out of favor. Okay? In 2021, the COVID era, the stock market and the S&P peaked around May, June of 2021. About July, August, going the end of 2021, all of 2022, I was acquiring and spending a lot of money adding to my retirement accounts and brokerage accounts on a weekly, monthly basis, pretty much companies in the Dow or the S&P 500. And, well, I lost a lot of money for 2 years, and nobody really wanted to do anything. I made 10, 20, 30 videos on this YouTube channel telling people in the bear market you should just buy something, buy anything. Obviously, in 2025, releasing this in January, it worked out very well. In 2022, Magic was in a full form bear market of new Magic the Gathering. All new Magic products by 2022, 2023 were completely just being annihilated. Collector boxes, overprinting, the Chris Cox, Cynthia Williams leading Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, were annihilating everything. It was just a known thing that every product release, it's overprinted, it tanks, and a lot of people stopped buying, a lot of patrons left, views tanked. The Magic world, the new product of Magic, just became in a nasty bear market, which lasted almost 2 full years, about 20 to 22 months, just under 2 full years technically. I deployed $1 to $3 million just in new Magic the Gathering collector boxes during that bear market And that's led me to have some of the largest positions in collector boxes from Boulder's Gate, Infinity, Buyout Blvd, Acoria, all the way to newer collector boxes, and so on and so on. And ending with Wildsville Drain and Ixalan at the end of Q3, Q4 of 2023, when I ended up with over 1,000 boxes of excess Wildsville Drain collectors and Ixalan collectors. Again, it's easy to discuss this stuff in January of 2025 because the market shifted, the velocity of change. All right, we'll have a little finance talk. The Greeks, the derivatives, and all of you smart financial people who like to time markets and think you're better than Wall Street and hedge funds, the rate of change, the velocity of how the price of these things change a lot quicker than I thought. Okay, when you measure certain things, you look at the time frame, you look at the rate of change. And the Greeks is how option prices and derivatives contracts are priced on Wall Street. Most people fail. Most people get destroyed using these things because I call options contracts on Wall Street weapons of financial mass destruction because people don't understand why they exist. Those type of products are designed and were created for hedging and attached to large portfolios to hedge risk exposure in different directions. They were not designed for regular people to just bet their money on contracts with timers. So, conclusion before we reveal everything. You'll notice that I was buying all the Magic collector boxes when it was laughed at and nobody won, starting in 2022. You'll notice in 2023, Pokemon shifted to Scarlet Violet and met with the biggest negativity of bear market of all the SVO1 and forward. It was awful. And that led me to create the largest sealed Pokemon booster box position between 10 and 20,000 booster boxes at this point. And that market has also shifted. Now, one other final thing. Yes, I like Bitcoin. I've been accepting Bitcoin and Ethereum, mostly Bitcoin and Ethereum and USDC, but I've been accepting these kind of main crypto payments since I started in 2019, 2020, when, I realized there was a huge demand for collectibles and in the card world and the overlap in Magic and Pokemon. Yes, I've held all that all this time through the ups and downs and the crashes, and obviously the crypto and the Bitcoin and everything, even through the bear market, worked out very, very well for me. Again, when you reflect on all this stuff, it leads us to January of 2025. New Magic, new Pokemon, Bitcoin, real estate, the S&P. Most asset classes are doing incredibly well, except one. Vintage Magic the Gathering remains one of the bearish, fractured, negative asset classes in the market that I have seen in my adult career or life or anything. And I've seen quite a bit. When I was at the brokerage firm and actually licensed and all this stuff back through 2007 and ending in 2012, some of the higher ups that trained me and taught me always reminded me, Rudy, markets will always be irrational longer than you can stay solvent, and just because you're right doesn't mean you can time it. And we've learned all this stuff. You've done research in The Big Short, Michael Berry shorting the housing market. He was right, but he was early. He took quite a bit of pounding until his timing lined up. Just one example in history, right? Well, here we are approaching 2.5 years now in a bear market for vintage Magic the Gathering. This acquisition, in my opinion, is probably one of the largest, if not the largest, sealed vintage Magic product acquisition ever, or out there, or in existence. Now, when you combine this, all these hundreds and hundreds of boxes of sealed vintage to the current Rudy position, I can confidently tell you all at this point in time, I don't think there's anyone or entity or business or individual left in the world that has any of these sealed products from the 90s at the level that I am now at. Now again, I don't think I would have been able to even acquire what you're going to see today if the market conditions were favorable. The only reason I was able to is, in my opinion, because this segment of collectibles is approaching 3 years of a garbage vintage bear market where every price on these items is flat or negative for almost 36 months in a row. Now, I also want to let you all know, I don't think it's going to turn anytime soon, and I'm okay stomaching and accepting that it could be a 5 or 10 year lost decade where this class of money and items I have tied up are ever desirable. And maybe I'm wrong and they never become desirable again. And it's already peaked, and the next generation, younger people, simply will just reject them. The same way 19th century European oil paintings are, not in favor. And the same reason antique 1970s, late 1800s, 1900s, the same way Persian rugs and other categories are just not accepted in the new era. So I maintain the attitude that no one knows what the future holds. There are too many moving components and technological advances that we just don't know how to wrap our brains around. The only free lunch in this world is diversification and doing what you enjoy. So we're going to pause the video here. I'm just going to show you all, kind of have a little chatter with some of the different sets and different items. And at that point, I don't have any details to reveal or information on what my plans are with the product of the future or the timetable, or if there's going to be special variety things and patrons or kits, or if I'm going to open and grade millions of vintage and PCG. I don't know. I'm not revealing, I'm not discussing. I'm just here to show you all some eye candy. And again, I have to thank Mark and his partner over there in New York, all the way at Neat Stuff Collectibles over there. And I'll put a link to the website. These guys in New York who helped work with me over the last couple months to put this deal together, to finalize the deal. It was hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a lot of money. And to me, it's almost historical. And the money is secondary to what it represents, which is, to my opinion, an era of magic, an era of artwork, an era of culture that doesn't exist anymore. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I present you with what I believe to be one of, if not the largest, remaining sealed product of vintage Magic the Gathering that was out in the wild and that was, accidentally discovered by the guys at Neat Stuff Collectibles in New York. Those guys focus on toys, comics, and different things. They don't really specialize in Magic the Gathering. So that's where I came in, and a lot of money later, here we go. I think this was kind of discovered by accident. I don't think this was something that was sought after. From what I gather, they were in the process of doing a large transaction for a lot of older comic books, and they stumbled upon these in some large packages that have been sitting since the late 90s from an old store. And they asked about it, and there you go, move on. So we have an absolutely just insane amount to go over with you guys, just absolutely crazy. But I can just kind of give you guys a few small kind of comments on things, and we're going to go back to discussion a little bit more. But you can see over here, we've got one of Rudy's favorite sets. We got some Weatherlight boxes. You've got some trash boxes, as I like to call it, the Homelands over here. You have the full seal Homelands and the circle seal Homelands, which are the different printings. One's USA and one's Belgium, if I remember correctly. So you have a thin, crappy wrap. But again, you saw the same thing in some other products like Mirage and some other products like Fallen Empires. Now, Homelands and Fallen Empires, the quality of the seal or anything doesn't really matter in those products. Even these boxes are $500 a piece because they're really cheap. Cheap, I know, right? There's no real risk of resealing and nothing that's really tampered with on Fallen Empires or Homelands. Weatherlight, same thing, not really a target for tampering. Exodus, we got a nice row right here. Exodus boxes are definitely something that people would tamper with because these are probably going to be a couple $1,000 boxes in today's market, even in the weakness of everything. Now these, we come over here. When you go into Mirage related or Urzas or Tempest or different things like that, you are going to run into things where sealing and authenticity is a thing. Now what's interesting on this package, you can actually see there's some boxes that were some dirt and soot and everything. I don't know if that was, move my arm, like that, where the sun bleach and damage and some the outer box that it was sitting in was messed up. So the inner cards, the actual seal in the box is in great shape, but the seal is discolored on a couple. I've seen that throughout the batch as I audited everything. Same thing with Urzas. These are very high-risk boxes for tampering because of how expensive they are nowadays. Now, when you go a little further back, Let's kind of zip over here with you guys. 4th edition, not so much. When you go into like 4th edition, this kind of stuff, these are like $1,000 plus boxes. And, you know, yes, they do have Mana Volts and some other fun cards, but they're still most of this stuff is going to be nostalgia type of things. Same thing when you get over to the massive amounts of Ice Age. But Mirage, once again, those are starter bricks. Mirage starters and boosters start to become quite desirable, to say the least. Now, when you get over here, when you get to like Visions, great thing. But like back here, when you get to things like the Chronicles and that kind of stuff, not really a lot to desire, but definitely a very, very collectible kind of thing. Okay, so I just want to share everything. In my opinion, when combining this with the Rudy position, it's absolutely breathtaking. And I thought just the pictures and sharing alone would be a very special experience with everybody out there. And, you know, I don't know if we're ever going to see another bull market in vintage. I don't know when we will, if ever. I don't know what the future direction of a lot of this stuff is. I already am surprised that we are approaching 3 years of a bear market, which is quite unusual considering most bear markets are 12 to 18 months max. So we could be looking at a lost decade. But we're going to go back to a little bit more conversation on the bookcase there, and then I'm going to finish this video up. I just really want to share with you guys. It's such a what a beautiful sight, everybody.